Hello, this is Noreen Crone-Findlay from Crone-Findlay.com and TottyTalksCrafts.com. Crone-Findlay.com is my website where I have all of my designs and patterns in PDFs and things for you to buy. And TottyTalksCrafts.com is my blog where you go to get the support material for the various video tutorials. Now, this particular tutorial is all about setting up the looms for the Soumak pouch weave along, and this video actually comprises many little videos that have chapter headings with this blue flower, which has handwritten chapter subtitle headings on it. That way you can nip back and forth in the video to go exactly to whichever part of the video you want to be able to re-watch. And the setting up the looms, I'm weaving the pouches on 3 different looms. The Mirix Mini, which is the 5-inch wide loom. The 8-inch loom is the Laney, and the 12-inch is the little guy. But I also do show you how to weave or at least how to set up a cricket if you don't have a Mirix loom yet. So, without any further ado, we will start setting up the looms. This is the cartoon or pattern for the Soumak pouch. I based my design on floral motifs on a wonderful antique Persian carpet that was on my grandmother's dining room floor when I was growing up. And I really internalized those beautiful carpet flowers as part of my design spectrum. When you're printing out your pattern, make sure that you print it out so that it is at least 10 inches long and 3 inches wide. You're going to print more than one copy. You're going to need a black and white copy for your cartoon that's going to be attached to the loom, and it will be behind the warp strands. You also need to have more blanks of the pattern so that you can try out different colorways. Look at the colors of weft that you have and designate a color of watercolors or crayon or felts or aquarelles for it, and then use those colors to try out different colorways. Now, most of the pouches that I wove for the sample pouches have just a single color background, but I really liked the idea of working with stripes. So feel free to do stripes in the background if you want, or your stripes can go this way as well. And one thing I've also found very handy to do is if you're having trouble deciding on a color combination, you can do a sort of a mini sample along the side. Try out some different color choices, and that will really help you make your decisions for how you're going to do with your colorway. And you may find as you weave that the yarns interact in a different way than you had thought they would, and so you may end up changing colors as you weave, and that's part of the magic of it. So I'll just show you a few of the colorways that I have done. Here's again another striped one, and even though it is the same pattern, you certainly get different, it looks so different when you use different colors. So it just never gets boring, that's for sure. So I'm just going to move those off to the side, and now what we'll do is we're going to start working with how the cartoon is attached to the loom. I have trimmed the top edge right to the horizontal lines here, and the lower edge as well. I've cut a piece of cardboard that is 10 inches long by 3 inches wide, so it's 25 centimeters by 7.5 centimeters. I'm going to turn the cartoon over and fold the edges on over. Make sure that I've got got that right along the line here. I'm going to tape it in place. And tape this edge in place as well. And now I'm going to use packing tape because I want to have the clear plastic packing tape over the entire cartoon, because we're going to be doing the weaving with needles, and so the needles can really damage your cartoon. So having packing tape, oh, there we go, as my grandson would say, ooh, big noise, Nana. Having the packing tape over the cartoon protects it, and looks like this bit of packing tape has some tea stains on it. Oh well, they'll wipe off. Okay, and I'm going to I want the entire pattern to be protected, so I'm going to put the packing tape over. And I've got some wrinkles in the packing tape, and that's not going to matter at all. Just looking at that to see if that will clean off. It's not going to be a problem. Oh, it just volunteered to go in on itself there. Okay, so I'm going to diagonally reinforce the corners. I will put, actually I think what I'll do is I'll cut that in half. Okay, not half. I will cut that in random formation and tape the corners. There's nothing like turning on a video camera to make sure that to guarantee that you'll have random and amazing things happen. It's like, oh, thank you for that, universe. Okay, snip, and do the upper corners too. You can tell I've done this a few times. Yep, and this corner too. Now I'm going to take, move that out of the way, and I'm going to take the hole punch and punch holes at each corner. The pattern for the cartoon is at Toddy Talks Crafts, and that link is in the information in that's one. Oh, it's wedged a bit. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that should help. And hopefully I've got those fairly closely lined up. You know, I'm going to re-punch this one. It looks like it's in the same horizontal line, but I want it a bit closer to the edge. Next, what I will be doing is taking some pieces of yarn and taking my ruler and I'm going to tie over my ruler to make loops. First of all, I'm going to fold my yarn in half and I'm lark's heading is what I'm doing. Take the loop through, take the ends through the loop. Okay, do the same thing with the next one. Now, when you're working, I want you to make sure that this flower, this is going to be the flower that's on the flap. I want that to be at the top edge of your loom. This is the inside edge, the opening edge of the pouch, so I would like you to have that at the lower edge of your loom. And that way, if everybody is aligned all in the same direction, that's going to make it easier for the weave along so that you know that what you're doing looks the same as what's happening in the videos. Okay, I'm going to fold this piece in half. Okay, fold it in half. I take the loop up from the back through to the front and take the ends through the loop and lark's head. I'm using black and white just to differentiate upper and lower, and you can do that too if you want, or not to worry if you want to use all the same color. So there we go, there's our fourth lark's head. Now I'm going to take one strand of the tie-on yarn down in front. I'm going to lay the ruler on it. This ruler is 1 1/4 inches wide, and that makes an excellent size loop. I'm going to tie a knot, just a simple square knot, around the ruler. Slip the ruler out of those loops. I'm not going to trim the ends of those loops off until I've got the cartoon mounted on the loom and am pleased with how it all lines up. Once again, I'm going to take one strand of thread down over the cartoon and one up, so that when I lay my ruler on it, it makes it, oh, okay, makes it easier to tie my knot. And I'm not tying it, you know, killer dead tight yet. It will tighten up later, but I want to, if I need to adjust, I want to be able to adjust it. Okay, so just make sure that's aligned properly. Yes, I have to tell you, I did put it on the loom upside down once, and the joy of the Merrick's loom is you can just turn it upside down and weave in the other direction. So there we have it. Our cartoon is prepared for the loom. So why do you need S-hooks? Well, because we're going to use the no warp ends technique, which means that the cartoon is going to be held onto the loom on a rod, and from the rod we're going to have S-hooks that will have the warp going back and forth from the top to the bottom of the loom. Now, I store my S-hooks in a nice little flat canning jar, and I also have some smaller ones in a little aluminum jeweler's case. Now, you can either buy S-hooks. I have 1-inch ones and 7/8 inch ones. You can either buy them with both ends open, like this, or both ends closed, like this. Now, the perfect solution for our purposes is to have one open end and one closed end. So if you buy ones that have both ends open, you're going to need to hold your S-hook with one pair of pliers and take another pair of pliers and squeeze them shut. But if you bought S-hooks that are closed on both sides, you're going to hold one S-hook, the closed one, with one pair of pliers, and then you're going to insert your pliers and twist them open so that you get the closed side, which will go onto the rod, and the open side is for the warp. This is just the perfect, they're perfect this way. I was thrilled when I twigged to doing this. Okay, so we're going to get ready to put the S-hooks all together with washers on the rods. So why do you need S-hooks and washers? Well, the S-hooks are so that you can string your warp back and forth between, because we're using the no warp ends technique. Unless you're using a tapestry loom that you can't attach the smaller, shorter rods to cloth and warp beams, then you'll just warp your loom like normal. But with the Merrick's looms, we can use the no warp ends technique and can use the shorter rods to at the upper and lower edge of our cartoon. Now, our top warping rod needs to have a total of 12 S-hooks on it. I'm just going to lift that up so you can see it more clearly. There's 26 washers because we have 2 at the beginning, then 2 washers between each of the S-hooks, and then 2 at the end. The lower rod is going to use 13 washers and, 13 S-hooks and 28 washers. Now, when I was setting up the upper rod, I put the S-hooks on. The closed side always goes onto the rod, of course. I put the S-hooks on so that the S-hook is down at the bottom, pointing up. What we want to do for the lower rod is we're going to turn our S-hook this way so that we'll be catching the warp ends through the S-hook turned up. So at this point, when we put it on and it just hangs loosely, the hook end is pointing to the back of the piece, and you can see that for the upper rod it points forward, for the lower rod it points back. So 2 washers and 1 S-hook, and so we'll just keep going across. So the reason why we have 13 S-hooks on the lower rod is because the first one is for tying on the warp, and the last S-hook is for tying it off. So that's why you need to have the extra S-hook on the lower edge. Now, the The piece is 3 inches wide, and our API, our ends per inch, is going to be 8 ends per inch. So, of course, at 3 times 8 ends per inch means we need a total of 24 warp ends, which is why we have the 12 hooks, because it's up and down giving us the total of the 24 warp ends. If you want to work with a finer set, then you would not put 2 washers between. You'd probably only use 1, and I would say if you would like to use 10 ends per inch, then definitely just go with 1 washer in between. And the 10 ends per inch times 3 inches is, of course, 30 warp strands. So you'll need 15 S-hooks on the top and 16 S-hooks on the lower edge. So there we have our S-hooks and our our washers, all on the warping rods. And I wanted to show you something that I thought was kind of a neat idea. If you don't have warping rods that are 6 inches long and you don't have a hacksaw to cut them, I have a locker hook, which is just a little bit longer. It's just about 6.5 inches long, but that would work fine for using as your warping bars. In order to tie the cartoon and the warping rods onto the loom, what we're going to have to do first of all is slip the loops onto the ends. Remember, this is our upper end, and we're going to slip those onto the rods. At the top and the bottom. And now we've got the cartoon is ready to attach to the loom. I'm going to show a different way of warping the mini loom. I will be attaching the cartoon to the 8-inch loom and the 12-inch loom using Velcro straps for the 8-inch loom. And if you don't have Velcro straps, I'll show you how to use shoelaces. Okay, I've got the 8-inch loom ready to tie the warping rods on, and the S-hooks and washers and everything are all lined up. Now, I've taken the spring out of the channel, and I've put the warping bar that comes with the loom into the channel just to protect it from the tension that the Velcro straps are going to put onto it. And I've got just a clear plastic ruler sitting on the blocks to keep the S-hooks from dropping down into the spaces. Once it's warped, you can pull that out. It doesn't need to be there. And I have taken the Velcro straps have a slot in them, and you can see I've taken the end through the slot, and one end goes on to, you use one Velcro strap on the end of each of the your little hook bars there. Okay, and squeeze those in. Now, the hopefully this does show. Okay, so the foot is sticking straight up in the air. I'm going to push it completely out of the way now, because you don't want it in the way while you are wrapping your Velcro on. I think what I'm going to do is stop, bring the camera in closer, and let you see a little more clearly what I'm doing. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so we're down here at the lower edge of the loom. I'm going to pull the loom open because I would like the I'd like the washers to sit right snug up against the loom. We'll adjust the tension afterwards, and I'd like the rod sitting. Oh, this one's not going to cooperate as nicely as it might, but what are you going to do? So I'm going to lift up the loom a little bit and squeeze the Velcro into place. And okay, I'm going to just ask that to sit on the nut there. And again, I'm going to lift again and squeeze. I like to start at the lower end because the upper end is a bit trickier. Okay, good. So that's our lower end attached. I'm going to take a second Velcro strap and just layer it on, simply for just that little added bit of strength. Now, if you don't know where to buy Velcro straps, I did put a link in the, I think it's the very first blog post in the, and you can go to Trotty Talks Crafts and you'll be able to find it there. Okay, I'm going to just start. I'll move the camera and we'll attach the upper end. I didn't like messing around with the plastic ruler, so what I did was I just slipped it out of the way, and I've just turned the blocks up, and so they're supporting the loom while I take the Velcro straps around. Then we're going to flip them around again afterwards, but I'm just going to get the Velcro straps on. There we go. And I'm going to put a second strap on each one, again, just for strength and security. And then we'll flip the blocks back into place. And now I tend to work with the loom either flat in my lap or with, whoopsie, so I'm just going to flip this around, with the foot. I need to pull this down a bit to get it to ease its way back in here. There. There we go. So, yeah, so I tend to close the foot and have the blocks set this way. But if you prefer to have your blocks set so that you can have them supporting the work, if you like to work on a table or desk, then that works just fine too. I'm going to just do a little pull out again with the camera so that I can show you the tensioning and the final setup here. Okay, so the 8" is just about ready to warp. Oh, I do like to have the we'll set it up so that, yeah, now because I'm going to be warping with wool warp, I'm giving myself some extra space above and below the hooks. Now the hooks are going to be, just grab the locker hook and show you where they're going to be sitting there. See, so they're going to be about here. So there's going to be a little extra room below the cartoon and a little extra room above the cartoon. And because I'm going to show you warping with the wool warp, you definitely do want a bit more space above and below your cartoon, because it is going to pull in on you. Okay, I will measure and make sure that I am square. So 4.5 inches to my flange, and yeah, so from the top of the nut to the top of the flange. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to now show you how to warp the 12-inch loom using shoelaces instead of Velcro. I forgot to mention before that if you can find 6-inch tent pegs at your local camping store, they work great as the S-hook rods, you know, holding your S-hooks on at either end too. Okay, so I'm going to now use the 12-inch loom to show you how to warp with shoelaces. You can see I've placed a shed stick across this is the 12-inch loom. I've placed a shed stick across, and it's going to support the cartoon for me while I'm doing the tie-on process. The ends of the loom are sticking up in the air. They can also be pushed flat out of the way. That's probably a better choice. And the shed device blocks are folded flat, but you know what? I think we will lift them up and get them out of the way too. And because there's enough space in the 12-inch loom, they're not going to be a problem for being in the way. Okay, so we've got our cartoon tied onto the rods. We're going to place it on the loom. We need to open the loom up a bit. Wait a minute. I need to start over again. Okay, so the 12-inch loom is ready to go here. I have the feet flattened out to the outside of the loom so that they're out of the way. I've got the blocks opened up and pushed out of the way as well. I've removed the spring, and I'm putting the warping bar that comes with the loom into the channel just to protect the channel. I don't like, you know, putting pressure on it. I'm sure it's very sturdy and everything, but I'd rather protect the channel by using the warping bar in it so that when I'm tying over it and putting pressure on, I'm not going to hurt it. So I'm going to lift I'm going to slide my loom open a bit here. I've got a shed stick here. It's going to support the center for me. Now I've got 4 very colorful shoelaces. I'm going to fold one in half, and what I'm going to do is use our standard lark's head knot, and I'm going to lark's head it. I'm just going to put the lark's head knot on each end of each of the rods. So I bring the loop under the rod and the ends come through, and then I pull up and tighten, and then the ends are draped over. I'll do the same at each of the other points. Under the rod, ends go through, and then the ends go up and over. And also at the lower edge. Under the rod, and ends through. The lark's head knot is one of the most useful techniques ever. It's just marvelous. Okay, so under and come on, little darling. All right, good. Okay, so I'm going to snug. I wonder, I should probably do what I did with the 8-inch loom, which is to take the camera down lower. I think I'll do that. Okay, here we are, and I'm snugging the washers up against the lower bar. I'm going to lift and just slip the shoelace under the loom and under the end of the rod. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side over here at the top of the screen. Okay, lift, and don't lift up too much, and tug the ends under. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is going to wrap one more time around, and then I'm going to take one of the shoelace ends over. You know, I didn't measure how long. These must be 36 inches long at least. They're a pretty substantial shoelace. Okay, so I have taken the one end around the rod so that I can take it back down, and I'm going to the front. I'm going to take the end around, the second end around the rod and back down. And now I will tie a square knot. Well, a bow will work, or a square knot. They both work. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Wrap around, take it under, then I go under the rod and around, and with each of the shoelaces, ends of the shoelace, so that I can have the ends coming in opposition to each other, down at the lower end here, and tie a bow. There we go. I'm going to do a close-up at the upper end too. All right, so now we're going to tie on the upper end. I'm going to slide the shed stick up so it's supporting. I'm going to pull the shoelaces so that the washers are up against the channel, and I'm going to lift the loom and push that down slightly, pass the shoelaces around the loom twice, ending up with them at the inside, and I'm supporting the second, woohoo, wasn't supporting it well enough, supporting the second end, so around one more time. Whoops, the pink one is pretty short. Well, I'm just going to go under the rod and tie my knot there. So that's what you do if it's a shorter one. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the red one that I did down at the bottom of the loom. I'm going to go around and tie a bow. So your pattern is now tied firmly to the loom. I'll flip the blocks here and tighten them just so they're out of the way. And again, if you like to use them to, you know, set up so that they support the loom, go ahead, feel free to do that. It's your loom. Okay, I'll lift this so that you can see that there we are. We're all tied on. Perfect. And now I will measure. It should also be Both sides have to be the same. Okay. I measure from the top of the nut to the flange. This guy is a bit off, so snug that down. Now, of course, once you get your warp on, you will be tightening up like mad. But for now, we're not going to worry about it being under ferocious tension yet. That comes later. Okay, and we'll turn this one over. Kind of look like mouse ears, don't they? Okay, now I'm going to fold the legs in and yeah, perfect. We're ready to warp. Although I'm going to show you the warping the mini is quite a different kettle of fish than warping the bigger looms. So that's going to follow next, and then we'll move on to warping. The mini, which is the 5-inch Murex loom, is just wonderful for weaving the sumac pouches. I'm going to do something that's a little unorthodox, and that is we're going to work with the wrong side of the loom facing us so that we have the smoother side with the cartoon on top of it. So remove the springs and put them aside in a safe place. And then we will attach the cartoon to the loom. Now, I've got the loom set to a distance that has the cartoon sitting with the upper edge at the upper edge of the loom, and the lower edge is going to be not at the very edge of the loom, because I want to have a bit of space at the lower edge to weave an extra header, because the warp, I'm using wool warp, it is going to pull in for sure. So on the lower loom rod I have 13 paper clips, and the loops from the that we tied earlier, and on the upper edge, upper rod here, it is 12 paper clips. Now I'm placing the cartoon on the loom, and then I'm going to carefully flip the whole thing and hope that the paper clips haven't chomped onto each other. They do that sometimes. Paper clips being paper clips. Okay, I'm going to move the camera up slightly just so more of what I'm doing is in the frame. Okay, so, and that would be, of course, the dogs chiming in. A cat or a deer or something has just walked through the yard. Okay, I'm going to flip those paper clips. Now the paper clips, you want to have the open side of the clip on the top of the loom. So make sure that, you know, on the upper edge, because it's too hard to reach under when you're warping. And what we want is to have the rods are just, see how it sits at the corner of the lower and at the corner of the upper side of the loom. So we're going to attach whoops, I just went right out of frame there, didn't I? Attach the textile cords to the upper, just slide the rod through the cords at the upper side of the loom. Take them to the lower edge of the loom and pick that up, and we will slip the rods into the loops and turn the paper clips so that they are all with the long end of the loop there, because what we want is to have the paper clip sitting right at the edge of the loom. So we can now, we've got our paper clips in place. Excellent. We're ready now. We can, if you'd like, while you're warping, if it makes it more stable, take the textile cords over the top of the loom and slip them onto the upper edge, the upper rod, just to hold them in place. And you'll, after you're all warped, then the warp will hold the will hold everything together for you. But for now, just use those marvelous little textile cords to hold things in place for you. So we are now ready to warp. So it's a pretty easy process, but it does take a bit of twiddling and fiddling to get your loom to the just set up to that perfect sweet spot. Okay, we can go on to the warping of the mini. The mini is wonderful for weaving the sumac pouches. It's just so portable. It's just a treat. I absolutely love, 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 love my mini. I guess you could say I really like it. Okay, I'm going to do something that's a little bit unusual, and that is we're going to work with the back side of the loom forward. So I've removed the spring and put it away in the pouch where it lives, and I'm going to turn the loom over. Now I have set the loom up so that it is going to give me about a ½ an inch extra space at the lower end of the loom, because I like to give myself an extra ½ inch or so of footer weaving, and so I always set up so that I do have that extra ½ inch. So I've got my thumb screws turned so that it is that the cartoon will sit on the loom with that extra ½ inch. So I'm going to turn the cartoon over face down, and then I'm going to put the wrong side, and making sure that you have the upper edge of the cartoon on the upper edge of your loom. So place the back side of the loom with the people have been asking me if they don't have a Merrick's yet. My dog responded. If they don't have a Merrick's loom, can they still do the sumac pouch? And of course they can. If you have a tapestry loom that doesn't have a cloth and warp beams like the Cricut does, then just warp it in your normal way. But you can do the no warp ends technique on, this is my, as you can see, my much loved and much used Cricut, the narrow one. And in order to do the Soumak pouch on the Cricut, you will just prepare your cartoon the way I've shown you already, and it will be attached to the cloth beam will be the front edge, and the warp beam will be the top edge. And I've got this one all warped up, ready to go, and you can see that I've got a fair amount of tension on there. When you're warping, don't put a ton of tension on. You'll just have even tension and then tighten up once you're completely warped, and you will be able to follow the rest of the weave along just fine. So happy weaving.